Well, you guys, welcome to another episode of TJU On Air. Today, I have an amazing story, something very inspiring about an individual that was homeless here in the city of Reno and now works at one of the most amazing nonprofits in the country. Brent, welcome.
Thanks, dude. Appreciate you having me here.
Dude, thanks for coming. I really appreciate it.
I'm excited to be here, man. It's dope to see you again. This is really amazing. I love what you've done with the place.
Thanks, man. Thanks. It's been a lot of work.
Yeah,
a lot of work,
I can only imagine.
It's worth every bit of it because we get to share some amazing stories of people that have been through everything you could imagine. And I think it's really good for other people on the other side to hear what people have gone through. Let's just give a quick little summary of who you are and where you're at today.
Okay. Today I'm a person in long-term recovery. I was homeless for over a decade, all across the country, and different layers of homelessness for sure. I spent a couple years in prison due to substance use issues. And, I made a change in my life, man. I came back and now I work for the Shine a Light Foundation based out of Las Vegas. What we do is we connect people to treatment for substance use disorder and homelessness. And so we walk them through about 2 years of their life and try and reconnect them into, being upstanding members of society, self-sustained people, and just getting their things back on track, dude,
That's awesome, dude. I know when I went down there, I've been down there a couple times and seen your guys' place, and even we've gone in the tunnels together, and the work you guys do is seriously amazing.
What's cool about it, what I'm learning a little bit more now that I'm a couple years into it, is we are the people who are utilizing all the services that are in Clark County, right? And we go out not only cultivating a relationship with the homeless, but we're cultivating a relationship with the people that live in the city, that work in these treatment centers, that know where the resources are, that have connections to all these things that we need. And then we can take one person and he has a challenge and we find a solution over here. This person has a question and the answer is over there, and we get to tie it all in together. And it's really cool, man.
That's awesome. Yeah, there's a lot of resources out there in Vegas, but there's so many people in need out there, huh?
By last count that the city did, I think there's close to 8,000 homeless. I would say it's a few more thousand than that.
At least, huh?
Yeah. And that's just a personal opinion. I don't really have much data to back it on other than, me working in the industry, working in the streets, being boots on the ground, knowing what's what. And
a lot of people don't want them to know where they are. They don't want to be a number or a statistic, and they don't want to be found, right? So
yeah, out of sight, out of mind. Stuff too. It's just such a transient lifestyle that you don't always have the ability to say like 1, 2, 3, 4, 100, 1,000. You don't really know. Dude, there's too many. You know what I mean? There's too many.
I think in almost every city you could almost double it, whatever they say it is, and you probably wouldn't be far off.
There's different layers of homelessness too. I lived in a space where there were times when like I was crashing on a friend's couch or I was a guest in someone's home, and like that's a level of homelessness, right?
Yeah.
Living in a motel, that's a level of homelessness because that's not usually long term.
Yeah.
To me, knowing this is the worst part to me, that if everyone that was unhoused decided, okay, we're ready to accept the help today, there's not enough resources.
Yeah.
Right? There wouldn't be enough resources. And obviously that's kind of an extreme scenario. As many resources as there are, I don't know that we have enough just yet.
Yeah, no, I could see that. You don't want to say that you hope everybody goes through the system at the right time so that it works out for everybody. You want everybody to go in right away, right? You'd love homelessness to end. But if it can, I guess it's kind of like supply and demand with a restaurant, right? They have so much food to feed people. You want them to stay busy, but you don't want them to run out of food in an hour.
Yeah.
Ideally, if that whole process could stay busy enough to where people were consistently just getting off, and eventually it was so low that barely anybody was out there, because there are a lot of people that are just, I hate to say it, they're gonna be homeless almost forever. Like there's the lifelongers, right?
Yeah.
They want nothing to do with society and being inside or doing anything, or maybe they've been that way for so long that they just can't comprehend the life of living inside again and paying bills and having a job and doing all those things. I almost envy it just a little bit because it seems so free.
I was just going to say there's so much freedom in that, right?
But at the same time, it's a hard life.
It
It's
is,
not
man.
easy. And I look at it almost like homesteading. Like, if you have your own land somewhere and you're just living off the land, and you wake up every day and your responsibilities are just acquiring what you need to live, to eat, to sleep, and you wake up the next day and you just keep doing that. Like, that sounds really free. But then you think of somebody who's homeless and it's almost like urban homesteading, right? But to acquire those means to get food or to get what you need to survive is very, very different in an urban setting than it is when you're on your own land somewhere that you own.
Sure.
Where did it all start for you? How'd you become homeless?
Where things got really bad for me, it was probably in my early 30s.
Mm,
I moved to Reno when I was 30 years old, from Tahoe. I was drinking a lot, kind of got in some trouble. I came down here to access a treatment center,
mm,
and I did pretty good. Um, got a cool little place. I was working at this restaurant inside the Museum of Art, and you know, my story is always the same. It's, I do good for a little bit and then I don't. And it got to that point where, I lost my job, I lost my place. Um, there was a spot called Jub Jub's Thirst Parlor.
oh, I remember it.
I'll
Yeah.
never forget the owner, Faith. She was so kind to me, and I went to her, and I was throwing this party, and I asked her if I could throw this party in this warehouse that she was building, their concert venue, and I told her, look, dude, I just lost my place, and like, can I crash in the warehouse for a little bit? And again, like, I'll always remember her for being kind enough to like let me crash there. And but the same old story, man. Like I messed it up, I just my behavior, and finally she had to kick me out, and that's when I like really, really became homeless.
Mm.
And so I don't know if she knows this. I slept on the roof for a couple of weeks of that warehouse. I would climb up the side of the building and crash out in the daytime, and then run around at night and do whatever. And that was really the start of it. Um, Recognizing that I didn't have a lot of friends here that wanted anything to do with me anymore due to my substance use and the other things that I was getting into. And um I was kind of on my own. My family had pretty much, I had pushed them away. They were pretty much over me. um and That's when I really fell into a dark depression. Things got pretty serious for me on the streets and the way that I was living and the people that I was around. And I'd scrounge up enough money to get a motel room here and there, but it didn't last more than a couple days usually. And so
Yeah.
um dude, I spent many a night sleeping on the buses in this town, stairwells of casinos. I would take the elevator up to like the 16th, 17th floor or whatever. And, there's always these kind of chairs like right outside the elevator in the casino hotels. And I just pass out in one until, security came and kicked me out. And
Well, and I never saw you when you were homeless, right? It was a long time ago.
yeah,
But I would imagine that if you looked really, really homeless and like, you're really dirty and you haven't showered in weeks or whatever, and you're in a place like that, it's gonna attract some attention.
they point, they can spot you from a mile away. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Especially if you're using drugs and alcohol, man, like, that's a whole nother level to it.
But I would
Right?
imagine if you look just like any other person staying there, you could probably get away with that for a while.
And I pulled it off for quite a while until, that lifestyle, it just wears on you, dude. And
Yeah.
like, you can see it in people's faces where, they're tired of the grind and, the just the daily survival. For me, I take accountability 100% for the situation that I was in. I made a lot of poor choices. I made more mistakes, and then I would continue to make those mistakes, and I'd be in the same pattern of behavior and a lot of mental health. It got to that point. The things that I was doing, it just kind of put me in a position where I was not good, man. My
Yeah.
mental health, my physical health, fully nutrient depleted or malnourished, I guess is the word that I'm looking for.
Yeah.
And I didn't care enough about society. I just kind of figured, well, this is how I'm going to die. There was for about I would say 5 or 6 years. My home was the alleyway behind the Little Nugget right downtown.
I miss that place, but I know exactly what you're talking
I'm
about.
bummed
Is it
out.
like Fulton Alley or something like
At
that?
full now, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, man. There was a little cupboard, little cubby where there was like an electrical box or something, and
Mhm.
I would go steal like a little coded lock, and I would leave my backpack and my clothes or whatever I had at that time. I'd just leave it in there, and I'd run around the city and cause destruction. And I'd come back, and the little nugget, they were always nice to me, and they would feed me, and I could stand there when it was cold, but come morning time when, the tourists are running in, it was, all right, you
Get
got to
out of
go.
here.
And
Yeah.
so I would just go out back and crash or, the old Fitzgerald's before, I forget the name of the casino they put in next to it now. But it was a Fitzgerald and it was an abandoned building. And, I found a way to break in and sleep in the basement. And that was just kind of my stopping grounds where I just got away with like living back there for so
You're
many
right
years.
in downtown then, huh?
Yeah, yeah, those were my stomping grounds for sure, dude. That little like square mile corridor of
Yeah.
like Virginia Street. Um, you
That I
know,
see as being like kind of the roughest part of town for sure.
it was for me back then. Obviously, but I haven't been here for many years now. I went away in 2017. We just had the opportunity to come visit a couple months ago, and it was the first time I came back. I love what the city's doing, but we were down there last night, right downtown Reno, and I see the same issues that were
Right.
there.
It's still a tough area, dude. It
Yeah.
still is. It's not people try to relate it to Vegas to the strip and the strip has its rough spots too for sure. But there's a lot more going on. There's a lot more money dumped into the Vegas strip than there is here.
Yeah, and it's different. It definitely is. I see people talk about how Reno's a small version of Vegas, which in essence I guess it is, but Reno's its own entity, man. Like,
Yeah.
we have our weirdness here
Mm-hmm.
that like, I hope Reno never loses. I love this
It's
town,
cool
dude.
about it.
I really do. I absolutely love this town. And I there was a point in my life when I was terrified that I would never make it off the street. I was talking to some friends this morning about that you know, you kind of get into this space of acceptance. Like, okay, I'm homeless and I don't know how I'm going to get money to eat today. If it's either taking food out of a dumpster or stealing something from a store or asking somebody for money just to buy food. There were days when I didn't eat, but there were also days when I didn't need to. I'd be up for a few days at a time before I found a spot to sleep. And um, that's a sad place to be in, especially when you know that you have loved ones somewhere that care about you. Maybe that relationship has been seriously damaged,
Yeah.
but you can come back from it, dude. I'm living
No, for
proof of that.
sure. I mean, you did. You did,
I did,
and a lot
man.
of people think that they never can, but it's totally possible. Forgiveness is out there, but a lot of people do lose their patience. Like me, with what I do, I see a lot of times that I'll build trust with people pretty quick, and and I'm willing to give people opportunities that their family might not be willing to give anymore because they're just tired of it. They've tried already so many times, and so I'm kind of new to the situation, and then sometimes that actually ends up being the perfect timing, because then somebody's like, they are ready, but everybody else has given up. They've tried so much. No one believes them anymore.
Yeah.
And then I come in with an open heart and an open mind. And sometimes that's all it takes, which is really cool.
What I see in most people is they didn't get to that point in their life overnight, right?
Yeah.
And like you said, like with their family, like time and time and time and chance and chance and chance and lie after lie. And then they get to a point where their family just kind of cuts them off. I mean, that's my story. That's what
Yeah.
I can relate to. You know what I mean? And so I know that you're not going to be able to repair the damage overnight either. Sometimes it takes years. It's taken me almost 5 years to get to the point where I am with my family now, and thankfully they're loving and amazing and super supportive of what I'm doing. And I think that a lot of the times, we verbalize, I'm going to do better. I promise, just to show me. And, it's, you kind of have to live it, and it takes some time to show people. And that's really what I had asked for when I decided to make a change in my life was give me the opportunity to show you. I'm not asking you for trust right now, but give me some time and I will show you that I'm willing to make a change in my life. And,
You got to take action.
yeah,
People,
dude.
you got to be consistent. People got
Yeah.
to see it. It's got to repeat. It's got to be, continuous. And then after a while, you start to go, okay, maybe this is real. Maybe they really are. And even me, when I'm trying to help people, and you as well, I'm sure with what you guys do, there are a lot of people who do take some action in the beginning and then fall right back off and back up in the same spot. And at some point, you're like, yeah, no, that's so and so, and we know, and
Sure.
we've tried, but eventually, a lot of them do come through and be consistent and continue to take action as long as there's somebody to kind of guide and be there.
That's really what I think it is, man. You really gotta have a lot. You said, patience, love, kindness, just these simple acts of human decency to people, that maybe society isn't ready to put in, the long term effort that sometimes is needed to help someone change their life.
Yeah.
I know there's many programs out there, that have people that are willing to, continue to help you along the way. I don't know that somebody's going to make a difference from day one and then walk away, and that's going to be a success story. If that makes any sense, you know
No,
what I
it
mean?
does. And I think sometimes people, even with other programs or whatever that's available, you guys seem to be real personal with people, which is great. And some seem to really be almost more like I relate it to like a hospital or something where it's like you might get a nice nurse or something here or there that will joke around, talk to you, remember your name, but a
Right.
lot of times you're just a chart. They're just seeing when you're ready to do
True.
this or that. And with a lot of programs that are out there, it's kind of the same way, and it's not personal. People don't feel like somebody really cares, and
Right.
I see with what you guys do, you do care, and I think it makes a big difference because the people I've seen walk in and out of your guys' building that have been through the process with you really appreciate everything you guys are doing. And I mean, it's awesome. And I see the relationships you've built with people, even when we're walking around and talking. And I have similar ones as well. And it doesn't take a lot. Sometimes just having that relationship and checking up and talking with people and showing up, even if you build a friendship with people and you talk to them just like they're your own friend. You
Yeah.
talk a little bit of crap here or there and you have some fun and you joke
Totally.
around and it's more personal. And that I think in the long run makes a big difference compared to somebody who's just treating everyone like they're this and checking boxes. Do you fit this? Do you do
Yeah.
this? Do you do that?
And I think most people can tell if you're being genuine or not. I don't care who you are, what your social status is in the world, right? Um, a person living under a bridge or a person living in a mansion can kind of tell if you truly are caring or if you're trying to get something out of them.
Yeah. Yeah.
Most people have that intuition, at least a little bit. And like you said, you just have to be kind and be playful and just be yourself. To me, that's really what it is. Just show up as your authentic self. I mean,
Yeah.
there are days when I'm stressed out and I'm short tempered and and I might snap on somebody and I say to them, look, dude, I'm sorry, I'm having a bad day. And they can say to me, I get it, bro. I can relate. You know what I mean? It's a normal human condition. And that's how we connect in that moment. There are other times when I just talk about somebody's t-shirt or they just saw a band or whatever, like, hey, cool, look at my shirt. Or yeah, there's a million different ways to approach people, but if you do it with love and tolerance, I think you're gonna get the best results every time.
Pedal back a bit. And if you can walk me through what a day was like when you were, living outside here in Reno.
I guess it would all depend on where I was sleeping the night before. I have. I mean, this isn't an over exaggeration. I've stayed in every single weekly motel in Reno. Easily, I could say that. And there's, many that have been demolished since.
Mhm.
We did a little tour yesterday, and I'm like, oh, that's gone. It's not there anymore.
Yeah.
There were many that I stayed in. So if I, when I was staying in motels, I knew that we were going to be pushed out the next day or whatever. And let me actually go back to the beginning. So when I first moved here, I went to the Reno Sparks Gospel Mission, and I
Mhm.
was there for about 6 months, and that's kind of where I learned about, the men's shelter and the family shelter, and the Gospel Mission was right there, and they had lunch, and there was another church that came out and fed at night. You know, all amazing things for people that are less fortunate than we are. But for me, it kind of made it easier for me to be homeless, right?
Mhm.
It enabled me to know that, all right, I don't have to work today because I know that they're serving lunch over there over by 4th Street.
And it was like at that point, would you could check in, correct me if I'm wrong here, but you could kind of check in. You had a place to sleep, you had some food, and then you could go outside and kind of get in trouble
Yeah,
and do get high and do whatever else you wanted to do, and then come
that was
back.
my story, man. It really
Yeah.
was. If if I didn't sleep indoors the night before, it was because I was getting high, and I ran around and I was in casinos and I was looking to steal. I was not a good person, man. I took a lot from this city, and it hurts my heart, and I try and make an amends as much as I can while I'm here. I was selfish,
Hmm.
so I would just run around and look for an opportunity to be selfish and take what I needed for myself.
When did you stop staying at the gospel mission?
I was only there for about 6 months, so and that was my first experience coming into town. I went directly to the gospel mission. I got accepted like the first day. I went to I think it was West Care Detox back then. So
Okay.
I went there for a day or two and then went into the gospel mission. And it was a wonderful program. Paul Parent is he's a man that I still remember to this day. Like that guy showed me love in a way that you know I didn't deserve at the time. You know what I mean? And I also didn't know at the time.
Yeah.
That I had a disease, I call it, but I didn't know that. I was in the same pattern of behavior my whole life, and I didn't understand.
Were you
Um,
thinking that you had everything under
yeah,
control? Yeah.
yeah, absolutely, man. You know what I mean? Knowing that, looking back, I mean, that's the insanity, dude. Doing the same thing over and over, expecting different results, and I did it for years.
How often was there like, tomorrow,
Oh my
or
god,
I'm
every
gonna do
day.
this. I'll get at it tomorrow.
All the time, you know what I mean? And
Yeah.
then you wake up with kind of a different mindset. I don't like to lose. So I don't know, maybe it was like a personal thing where like I'll just beat this on my own,
Mhm.
tomorrow, I'll do it tomorrow, or I'm gonna be better tomorrow.
And
Or
it's always easier to be motivated or think about it once you've already gotten your fix, right? Like when you're in that mindset and you already got high and everything else is taken care of, you're like, all right, cool, cool, we're good. Like
yeah, it's not that bad
tomorrow, I
anymore.
got this,
Yeah.
But and then you wake up tomorrow and it's like it just
It's
starts
just
all over.
miserable. And it's more miserable every time, dude.
Yeah.
When I left the gospel mission, I didn't leave on good terms. I got kicked out because I snuck out, and I think I went and drank with a buddy of mine, and I ended up getting a job right away at the El Dorado, and
Oh,
the Coronos were super good to me, man. They treated me very well. I could, hold it together, and of course, I screwed that up, and was crashing on somebody's couch, and the same story over and over again. Kind of came out of that, and when I was working at the museum, it was a restaurant called Composition inside the Museum of Art. Super awesome time in my life.
and were you in motels when you were working?
Not at that point. I got a little townhouse thing that was right next to the museum. It was right there
Okay.
on California Avenue, and super proud of myself. At the time, still doing drugs, and so I'm just kind of barely holding on by a thread. You know,
Thinking you're managing it and it's all
yeah,
working out okay.
yeah,
Yeah.
thinking because I live indoors, like it's okay.
Yeah.
But when I hit the streets and things got real bad for me, um, I didn't. I didn't really know how to handle it, and so I had kind of like came to this acceptance that like, all right, this is my life now. This is what I'm gonna be doing, and I'm gonna die on the streets of Reno, a drug addict. And my family doesn't want to talk to me. I pushed them away. I'm super mad. I felt like I was owed something, so every time I would talk to them, and they would give me reasonable advice,
Mhm.
I'd get mad at them for doing that instead of just bailing me out. Like, why don't you just give me thousands of dollars so I can start over? You
Yeah.
know what I mean? That's not how
I
it
got this
works.
business idea. I'm
Yeah,
gonna
dude.
start this. I'm gonna do it, you
Like,
know?
and to me it was all lies to them. It was just a manipulation. Like,
Mhm.
I swear to God, you send me some money and I'm gonna do this with it and I'm gonna get a shower and blah blah blah. But then, when it got to the point when like, dude, I wasn't brushing my teeth, I wasn't taking showers, but like once every maybe week, if we, me or somebody got a motel room or,
Mhm.
you know, um, the homeless shelters, I was so out of my head that like I'd go there and they'd, want to come and talk to me about like mental health resources or getting on medication. And I just didn't want to hear it. I didn't want help at the time. I wanted the help that I wanted, right? I wanted
Yeah.
it my way. That was the only way I was going to do it, my selfish way. Not recognizing that, if it, if it was literally just staying at the shelter for a couple of months, cleaning up, no drugs, no alcohol, going to get a job, saving some money, I could have got into, maybe in a monthly motel, and then from there saved a little more money and
Got an apartment and a
exactly,
house.
dude.
Yeah, stepping stones.
Um,
Move your way up. Yeah.
but no, in all honesty, the drugs really had a hold of me in a way that I didn't know how to come out of it. Um,
Did you ever go hold a sign for money?
um, I was not a guy who flew a sign a lot.
Okay.
No, what I did do though was I did these little paintings. I'd get these motel rooms. I'd do my little spray paint artwork. I think you've seen some
Yeah,
stuff
no,
of
it's
mine.
it's really cool artwork too.
And I used to go hang out behind this bar in Midtown, Shay's Tavern,
Yeah.
and I'd hang out back and I'd paint, and people would come out of the bar drunk and they'd look at my art and be like, "Oh, bro, that's really cool. I'll give you $20." And so that kind of gave me the idea to go down to a place called One Up. I don't know if it's still
It's
there.
not here anymore, but I know where it was.
Okay,
I lived right by it at Del Cortez.
super dope place.
Yeah.
And it was electronic music stuff that I was really into, and I was spun out of my mind anyway, so I would just kind of hang out front and like put my paintings up on the wall, and that was my thing. I did that every weekend for a long time,
So
and
that was your hustle, and you'd make enough to kind of
just keep
just get
getting
by.
high, dude.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like not even get by, maybe get by that night. You know what I
And the
mean?
priorities are like very different when it's like, now I would be like, okay, got $10, I could get this food here, and then I might need some gas in the car,
Yeah,
whatever you budget it out.
yeah,
Back then it's like, I know I can get this taco for like $1. They might even give me one for free. So I
right.
got $9 to spend on getting high tonight.
Yeah. And it got to the point where I I knew how to be homeless, dude. It wasn't that hard to be homeless, even when it was snowing out. You know, I knew that I could go run around a casino, dump $2 into a machine, and play the minimum amount of bets every time, and security wouldn't bug me for as long as I could just sit there. You
Yeah.
know, there were times when I knew there was a pub crawl here last night, right? Like
Mhm.
those were my favorite nights because um, you wouldn't really get bothered. You could be in the casino for a long time because there's all this commotion going on, and so I in my mind, I kind of knew like, okay, there's going to be a pub crawl here. There's conventions in town this time, and I would always go to like where there was mass amounts of people and
So
just
you
kind of
kind of
try and
blend
blend
in.
in.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I know a lot of people don't realize because in Nevada it's a gambling state. There's casinos, whatever. So a lot of people don't realize that like almost people get a couple bucks and do exactly what you're talking about. Go into the casino and just ride it out as long as possible. Sometimes they get free play for being members or
yeah,
whatever, and then just want to stay warm. It's not a matter of they have a gambling addiction.
right.
Like most of the time it's just like survival. Like I just want to get out of the cold.
Yeah, that 24-hour lifestyle was kind of a godsend, to be honest with you. I mean, if it's 25 degrees outside and there's snow on the ground and you're stuck outside, that's not good, dude. I had a friend who died from exposure.
Yeah.
He slept outside when it was super cold, and he just I don't know the science behind it. They called it exposure.
Okay.
He
It
froze to
happens.
death.
It
You know,
happens. Yeah, no, it's real. It's real. It happens. A lot of people get frostbite and lose limbs all the time.
and it is sad. But I kind of go back to saying stuff that I know is kind of controversial when it comes to housing. I don't necessarily believe in a housing first model. So you're homeless here, but like, how did you get there?
Yeah.
That's always how I try and explain it to people. Like, let's address this trauma, that
Yeah.
part of it, right before you got here. It's not just the answer is I'm going to give you a house or I'm going to give you a room to stay in. Everybody deserves shelter, right?
Yeah, nobody should freeze or starve.
No way.
Yeah.
Absolutely not, dude. Like that part I do agree with, but just giving somebody an indoors place to live doesn't solve the underlying issue, right?
No, that's funny because on that note, there's a lot of people when I make a video that automatically fall in love with the person in the video. And like, let's do a GoFundMe. They need a house, they needed a car, they need all this stuff. And I'm like, yeah, but we're not getting to how they ended up where they're at.
Right.
And are they going to be able to budget money? Okay. Like there's times where I have spent a lot of money to help somebody and it gets to a point where it's like they still have the same habits. And so it doesn't matter how much money I give them. I could give them $1 million. It's just all I'm doing is buying them time.
Yeah, that's a wonderful way to say it, dude. If you had given me an apartment for 6 months and said, "Here you go, figure it out," all that would have done is given me a place to do more drugs and alcohol at. To be honest with you,
Yeah.
I would have been indoors. Okay, great, but there was so much more that led me to that point that I needed help with than other than housing. Like,
And I know I'm being hopeful, but having a change of scenery, being inside or like being around different people might open people's eyes to something. And maybe all of a sudden now they're like, oh, wait a minute, it's worse than I thought. Like, this is nice. I don't want to go back out there. I don't want to lose this.
yeah,
I need to do something different. And I know that that's not as common as you would hope, but I do think that does happen. It's just not as much as we would like.
I'm a big fan of like community and connection, and um, I don't. I know the homeless shelters are a tough place to be, but that also affords you the opportunity to be around other people, and like you can kind of brainstorm on a lot of the times. For me, when I'm solving a problem now in my life, I go to my friends and I say, "Hey, let's do this together. How can we all work together to make this happen?" If you're in that type of communal living environment where other people were unhoused and had as many issues as you did, you can kind of come together and work out the solution together. I know
Yeah.
sometimes that works, a lot better than just doing it on your own. Um, it's healthy. It really is. It's healthy to talk to people. It makes you feel better.
I think sometimes people tell me some ideas too when I'm talking with them, homeless people in particular, that they have a business idea or something, and I'm not trying to poke holes in their idea, but there's missing pieces.
Yeah.
Like I just need to do this, and like, well, you're going to need a business license. You're going to have to pay taxes. Oh, you're going to be, or you're going to go do DoorDash or whatever, and you're still going to have to be. You're going to be a 1099 employee. You're going to have expenses on your vehicle. Like there's other added costs with that you're probably not seeing right now. The best one I see that everybody always says, if I just had an RV, everything would be so much better. If I just lived in an RV, that's all I need. Then I would, I'd be inside, but I'd be able to get around and be okay. And it's like RVs fall apart. RVs are so expensive to repair and
Yeah.
fix. And if you want to find a spot to park one that is actually like in a park, you're going to probably save a couple $100 from what an apartment would cost. And then you have all the maintenance on the vehicle too. It ends up being cheaper just to get into an apartment 9 times out of 10. But that seems to be a solution that a lot of people think because they see it everywhere. And
Yeah.
it's still technically not legal. So you could lose that. I've seen many people who lose their whole RV or their trailer or whatever.
Anything worth doing, it's going to be kind of tough, and
Yeah.
it's worth it in the end. For me, I had said earlier, like I didn't screw my life up overnight, dude. And I didn't put it together overnight.
Yeah. When did it end in Reno for you? Was it prison?
2017. Yeah. Yep.
Okay.
I got arrested. We drove by a bar when we were coming here too. I was telling my friends like, hey, that's where it started, man.
Yeah.
And I always live my life in the rear view, dude. Like I can't see it when it's happening, but like it was the best thing that ever happened to me, man.
Yeah.
It really was.
I hear that from a lot of people after the fact. Yeah.
And I didn't feel like it at the time. I didn't understand the lesson that I was being taught at that moment. Obviously, it was a struggle. Doing the amount of time that I did. But
How much it was, what'd you say?
Almost 4 years.
Okay. See any crazy stuff when you were inside?
Oh yeah. Yeah.
What's one of them?
Um, bad stuff, man. Just bad. There's really just a different kind of sad human condition in there where everybody is kind of taking advantage of everybody else. Even the guards, it's not a safe place to be. It's tough and lonely,
Yeah.
Um, and I met some really interesting people along the way when I was in there. Um, I didn't have as much programming as I had hoped. I think we can do a little bit better with that. They do offer certain things, but it's difficult to get there unless you have a really long amount of time. But
How'd you manage to get through it?
I cut hair. I read books. It was just like anything else, one day at a time. You know what I
Mhm.
mean? Just keep your nose clean, stay out of the way. Just like anything else, like there's people that you shouldn't be associating with, in there, and it's bad things can happen just out of nowhere. I made it through, and for me, I love cutting hair, and that was, an easy thing for me to stay on task and offer other people, and kind of get some free coffee out of the deal, in
Okay.
exchange. And at the time, we talked about your family, like time and time and time again, you're lying to them, and then when I was inside, that's kind of where I was. I would try and make a phone call, and everybody's like, nah, man, we're past that point, the boy who cried wolf. And,
Yeah.
so, I had, I'm not going to say I had zero support, because I did have a little bit of support, but I think that, at the time I wasn't really, that wasn't the place that I was going to get the opportunity to show people that I was willing to make a change.
Yeah.
I just kind of had to get through it. And, thankfully when I did, I always go back to saying that, if I had gotten half of the amount of time that I got, I don't think that it would have changed me. I'm really
You
grateful that
needed every bit
I
of it.
did, dude. I really did, because when I got out, I didn't want to go back to prison. I was definitely scared of that. But I more than anything, I was terrified of going back to living the way that I was living on the street.
Okay.
I had lost a very
And were you
close.
able to stay sober in prison?
No,
Okay.
no, I wasn't. And there were many long periods of time where I wasn't doing stuff in there, but
Yeah.
when it was around, I definitely indulged. That was my life, dude. It was kind of the essence of.
Was it pretty available in there?
It was, yeah,
Yeah.
surprisingly, and then when I learned how it was coming in, and it's just a very easy system. It's just another, just another transaction to people. I'm a pretty, reasonably intelligent person, and even then, when I was going through my mental health issues, I knew what the problem was. I knew, it was me and what I was doing and the substances, and
But you
and
kept telling yourself like, "Ah, tomorrow, or
I'll
I'll get it,
figure
or
it
I'll figure
out.
it out," or
Yeah,
it's just right now, like, especially when you tell I
there
did
was
it for myself, a lot of it too was just like, "I'm not hurting anybody else, I'm just having fun. What's the problem?"
there
You
was a
know?
lot of comfort in that misery too. It's like what I knew, you know what
Yeah.
I mean? The devil you know, or um yeah, I knew how to be homeless, dude. I knew
Yeah.
how to get drugs and be homeless, and the drugs would help me stay homeless and kind of help me survive while I was out there too.
When you were out there, did you ever see people that just became homeless that were kinda new to the streets and, like, maybe didn't do drugs, didn't have anything like that, but, like, uh, things turned real quick
Oh
or
yeah.
anything like that?
Oh yeah, absolutely. There was, it's always kind of the teenage kids or whatever that were like, kind of bad. Mom and dad kicked them out. And then there's again, it's a transient lifestyle, so people would just come in from out of town, and they not really recognizing that this city can kind of chew you up real quick, dude. And this is not these streets are not forgiving. It's not the type of place that you find a maybe one or two family members out here when you're on the street, but people are looking out for their own, dude. And
Did you make kind of like a street family,
I
so to
did.
speak? Yeah.
I did.
Have you talked to any of them in years or
No, I haven't. Unfortunately, my closest friend passed away. Right
sorry?
before I appreciate that. Right before I went to prison. Um, and that was a tough thing for me.
Did that
Um,
open your eyes to anything?
I kind of recognized the shift at that point. Like, she was, her name was Heather.
Mhm.
She I was just super kind to me, and we just struck up a friendship. She was a drug addict, a prostitute, and just lived homeless. And it was just the lifestyle that she knew, and she'd been doing it for a lot longer than me. So she kind of taught me a few things along the way.
You
Uh,
see, was death something that was kind of common out there that you would run into a lot? I know since I started doing this, I never thought that people would pass away while I'm working with them. But so
mhm.
far, I think it's around 5 people that I've been helping, either in the middle of helping them or shortly after or whatever that they've ended up passing. This guitar right here actually is from a guy I was helping who ended up passing away in a room that he was paying for on his own, and he just was back on his feet and doing well. And last week before it happened, it's like he knew that it was going to come, and he gave me the guitar. I'm like, "What are you doing, Chris? This is what? Why?" Like you, he said that this was really special. And it was like 40 years old. It was from like 1940 or something like that. Like it's a special, whatever it was. And I'm like, "Why are you giving me this?" Like it's like he knew something was coming. I don't know what it was, but anyway, it's something I think is more common than people know. And I'm just wondering if you experienced a lot of that out there.
Yeah, definitely. And more than you'd like to go through. And you
Yeah,
kind of become desensitized to it after a while.
I hate that, but yeah.
I am in that space now, especially in working in treatment. You have to become a little bit more desensitized to it, otherwise it will kind of eat you up because it happens. But when you're homeless, when something really heavy happens, um, you just kind of have to accept it. You can't let that be the thing that breaks you if you need to continue going. You know,
When you were homeless, was there anybody that you kind of ran into when you were out there that made a big impression on you, whether they were homeless or not, but did something that you would never forget, good or bad?
you know, I um I have to say Paul Parent, the guy who worked at the rescue mission, like he's somebody in my thoughts quite a bit that was super kind to me, showed me a different kind of way.
And was it just because
Um,
he was nice to you or kind? Did he say
he
anything?
kind of understood me in a way that nobody else ever did. Kind of
Okay.
taught me some things about myself that like I didn't know.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? At 30 years old, like I still think, I know everything. Kind of actually becoming a man at that point in my life, and he kind of, knocked me down to size a little bit, you know what I
Okay.
mean? But in a different way than anybody else had. Um, I when I was homeless, yes, Kelly, she worked at Reno Envy. She just, showed me kindness, dude, showed me love. You know what I mean? Didn't judge. You know what I mean? Just held space for me to, I would stop by the store and we'd talk, and I just tell her, I'm scared, I'm sad. I don't know how I got to this point. And she was always super kind to me, dude. And Faith, she was dope to me.
And that stuff made a big difference.
It did.
Made an impression long term.
It did, man. The Shea family, like the O'Shea's, they let me sell my artwork behind in the alley back there.
And all these people you're talking about, have you reached out or talked to any of them since?
No, I really haven't, man. To be honest with you, I kind of, when I went through, so when I got out of prison, I kind of made a decision to never go back to living the way that I was living before. And, I make what I call living amends as much as I possibly can, and I will always remember these people for being kind to me. But Kelly, I think that we've talked a little bit on Facebook, and I messaged, and there was a chick named Vanilla Dog who owned a place called Bar USA. I don't think it's there anymore. It was in Midtown.
Mhm.
Just the sweetest lady to me. Kind of like a badass chick though, ran with some pretty heavy hitters in this town. And she knew my situation, man, and she would like let me hang out at the bar and let me help her sweep and mop and whatever. And like she'd
So all
you
those
know
people helped you become what you are today in a way by showing you some
hundred
kindness
percent
and just listening or talking or whatever, making an impression. Um, that's I mean, what maybe they'll hear this, who knows? But that's in a way I don't think any of them feel like, that you need to reach out or say anything. I'm sure you're out there now. People see you. So I'm sure that those people have heard something good. I'm sure of it.
You know what I love about this thing is that I used to be the person that thought people are set in their ways. There's no way they can change, right? Time and time again, somebody's nice. Time and time again, somebody's a jerk. Like I feel like over the years we kind of build the same pattern of personality. And I thought at one point I was never going to be able to make it out alive. And now what I love to say is like I am living proof, man. Like I
Yeah.
was the worst of the worst, dude. I really was. And now I spend my days helping other people, and I work for an organization that has garnered some attention in Vegas and nationally too.
No, you guys
Um,
are doing amazing stuff. And I mean, when you were homeless and you thought that you were just going to die, you thought everything was going to end any day now. You were living the life that way. There's, it might be a dumb question, but did you ever have just a glimmer or a thought that maybe it won't, or maybe you'd be where you are today?
no, I didn't, dude. And I think about that often. Like there was never a. I prayed. I used to like say a prayer like, please do not let me die on the streets of Reno, Nevada.
Did you have any other hope other than not dying?
I kind of my intuition told me like I was going to get in trouble. You know what I
Mhm.
mean? I didn't know that what it was going to look like, but I figured that some force, whether it be the police department or God or whatever the case may be, like something had to physically take me away from what I was doing.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And that is exactly what happened. And I'm very grateful that it did happen that way because I wasn't in a headspace to figure it out for myself. There's no way. And I feel like if I had kept on with the same pattern of behavior, no doubt in my mind that, I would have lost my fight, dude. The advice that I have to other people, like if you can't do it for yourself, go tell somebody that. Like I need help. You know what I mean? Make a drastic change, get rid of everything, go. There are programs out there where you could go to someone and say, um, I'm a danger to myself. You know what I mean? In essence, lock me away for a minute and guide me to what I need to do next.
Yeah.
Um, Not an ideal thing to do, dude. You know
No.
what I mean? When you don't know what the future holds in these programmings,
There's so many. It is,
that's the thing. Like you don't know what the future holds.
yeah.
Um, and so that can be a scary thing if you don't know what to expect. I'm sure it's scary for you in your life if you're taking on a new project and I'm taking a risk at something, you know what I mean? And you're super sensible, you know what I mean? I know you well enough to know that you're going to play out every scenario. Well, what if this happens and then that and this that and so on. If you don't have an answer, if you're homeless and somebody says to you, trust me, I know you don't know me that well, but trust me and I can help you out, but
Yeah.
you have to give up everything that you know, leave your entire life behind and come with me, but I'm not going to be able to tell you what the next 6 months of your life looks like. Like that's going to be a hard choice to make, dude.
Big time.
It
Yeah.
really is.
The only
Um,
thing I think you can say is that, I mean, you can relate it to what they go through on a daily basis, right? And like it's not, it doesn't take a lot to be better than losing your stuff all the time, not knowing where you're going
yeah.
to sleep, not knowing where you're going to get your next meal, um, or even your people that you think are your friends that are lying and cheating and stealing from you all the time. A shelter is a lot better than that in most cases,
Yeah. It is sometimes, but like we had said before, that freedom,
right?
there's a
Yeah,
there's an old No Effects song that I really like this lyrics to. He says, not freedom like a shopping cart. You know what I mean? That's really what it is. It's different. Freedom like a shopping cart to me, that was like you don't have to worry about a thing,
yeah,
Um, and I know some people will disagree with me when I say this, but when you're homeless, you might be somebody, dude. You have status of sorts. People depend on you. People care about you. You go into a shelter, you got a curfew. Nobody cares who you are. You're just, this guy who's staying in the shelter.
you got to put your
Um,
ego and pride aside.
right.
Yeah,
Your case manager is the only person who knows your name. It's a different thing. It's a risk that you have to take. It's a change. But there's no more freedom when you come into these programs.
mhm.
Generally, I mean, that's
You got to earn it back, get some responsibilities, make some money, and be able to buy things you want to buy and do things you want to do and live a life you want to live.
imagine trying to reverse the effects of homelessness and substance use disorder overnight or in a 30, 60, 90-day program. You know what I mean? Like, and
Uh,
we're talking like decades for some people
yeah.
of destruction and sadness and sorrow. I'm triggered by certain things today in my life when if I'm at work and we're out in the tunnels and we're helping somebody or taking somebody into to withdrawal management, um, and I'll be in certain spaces where I look and I just remember how it smelled.
Mhm.
How this spot might be a little bit safer than that right down there, and that always just it gets me back to a place of gratitude.
Mhm.
You know, knowing that there are opportunities for people. We tend to forget as a society that people that are homeless, living on the streets, might have a drug problem. Like they're still part of our community.
Yeah.
I don't, I that's such a simple concept. Um, I wish as humans, we would slow down a little bit more. We'd stay off our phones. We'd stop looking for the instant gratification, and we'd kind of. If it, I personally think, obviously, it's just an opinion of mine, but I think that if we operated more in a tribal mindset, where think about the Native Americans. They were smaller tribes, 400 people. You knew everybody.
Sometimes I think about with in relation to that too is like homeless people are outside all the time, and like one thing we don't ever do anymore is just look up at the sky. And you think about Native Americans or people a long time ago, and it's like they're more in tune with the environment and what's going on outside all the time. And I don't know, I just we get so locked into everything inside and our phones or TV or whatever, you almost never take a moment to just kind of smell the roses.
Yeah. No, or talk to somebody who's obviously homeless. Hey man, what's your name?
Yeah.
What if you don't mind me asking, like how did you end up out here? Um, is there anything I can do for you? Go buy him a sandwich. I people ask me for money. I don't carry cash on me a lot, but if I have cash on me, I have no problem giving it to somebody. I don't care what they're gonna spend it on, man. You know, um, I, if somebody needs to eat, like okay, why not?
Yeah, I think a
You
couple
know,
bucks is okay. But like the other influencers that go out there and just hand out 500 and $1,000 to random homeless people, like that worries me myself. I don't know because that to me seems like it could put them in danger in
I
many
think it
ways.
sure absolutely. Are you trying to help somebody? You're trying to enable them to become homeless. I don't want to make it easier for somebody to be homeless. I don't. I want to be able to have a solution when you come to me and you accept my help, or when I encounter somebody that is ready. I want to be able to get them connected. I don't think there's anything wrong with helping people out, giving them food if that if it just helps them get through the day. I love what you do, dude. I absolutely love what you do.
Thank you.
I think that it's really important to like you. I love that you're solo. You know what I mean? And you just go out as just Nate. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like, hey man, here's a blanket, here's a sleeping bag. I've been out with you a few times, and it's just it's really cool what like a hoodie will do to boost somebody's morale that day. You know what I
Yeah.
mean?
Yeah.
There's nothing wrong with giving somebody clean socks.
Mhm.
To me, brand new pair of socks, fresh haircut, like it changes my whole day. You know
Right.
what I mean?
I want to do a little bit more. Now I'm doing more longer videos on YouTube than just a bunch of shorts
Okay.
because I want to spend more time with people and do a little bit more. And I like the concept of like kind of like the makeover kind of thing when it's just like spend some time. I did it with a couple guys in the past just because it happened and it just felt right. And it was like, man, that was really cool. I want to do more of those.
Yeah.
And it's really hard to make those into like a really short video because
Sure.
there's a lot that's going on. But like take someone out for lunch, take them to get a shower, get them some new clothes, go get them a haircut, and like spend half the day with them and just get to know them and hang out.
That's what I'm
I
talking
love
about.
that.
That's what I'm talking about, dude.
Yeah.
And if let's say everybody in our city did that, dude, you know what I mean? Just one day out of the month, you decided you're going to go talk to that guy, get to know them, find out about their life, how they got here, what are their plans? Do they want to come out of this, but maybe they can't figure it out? Do they not? And that's okay too.
Yeah.
I
Yeah. Don't
support
judge
that.
either way.
I
Yeah.
support that. I really do. As long as you're not hurting anybody with what you're doing, like I support the way you want to live your life. I really do. But I don't think that people understand the ripple effect that might have. You
Yeah.
know, if you smile at someone, it could change your whole day. If it changes your whole day, you could change somebody else's whole day.
Hmm.
You know what I mean? And continue on um down the road, and then we're all just a little bit more kind to each other, and it doesn't matter who you are, get to know what is available in your community, right?
Totally. Yeah.
Find out where people can go for help, whether it be substance use disorder, mental health, a free clothing closet, a lunch place. Vital documents are huge, dude. Like,
Yeah.
is there a social services office that offers a free ID through the DMV program or something? Just actively engage and educate yourself and find out what services are available in your city, in your town, village, wherever you live, right?
Yeah.
Find out. And then that way, we can educate the people that need the help. Like, hey man, do you know about this place? I mean, I know that when you go out in Vegas, you're always asking people, hey, do you know about the Shine a Light Foundation?
Yeah. I
Do you
don't.
know about Crossroads? Like, do
Yeah.
you know about these places where you can go? And if people don't know, then how are you going to get there?
I usually cut that out of the videos because those are like the after conversations, or it's like I do everything, give the hug, the handshake, all that, and then afterward, it's like, hey, by the way, I don't know if you've heard or this or that, or always have wristbands with me when I'm in Vegas. There is a fine line to not piss people off, though, too. Like you don't want to be pushy.
Yeah.
You have to be very open minded, and if they want nothing to do with it, that's cool. It's just be very clear that, like, hey, I don't care what you do. Like, it's up to you. I'm not trying to make you do anything. It would be awesome if you did go check it out, but at the
Yeah.
same time, if you don't, all good, man. Like, here's a couple bucks, or do you want something to eat? You want a taco? Whatever it is, but just like don't give up on someone just because they don't want to go get some help.
Right.
I hear a lot of females in comment, or I see females in comments on my videos like, I'd love to do what you do, but I'm a female. I don't think I could do that. It's like, well, if you find a way to do it where you feel safe and you're in a place where it's okay and you feel all right about it, then give it a shot. But yeah, totally. If you don't feel okay about it, all good. You
Yeah.
can find other people that are in agencies or
Right.
whoever and support them.
Yeah, I was just going to say that. I mean, in every city across the country, I know there's an organization somewhere that there's a group of people that are getting together and looking to make a difference.
Yeah.
Uh,
So we went through your day to day back then. What's your day to day now, dude?
um, God, blessings on blessings, dude. It really is. I wake up early in a warm bed. In a clean home, with food in my fridge. I drink coffee first thing in the morning. I have a friend that I get to talk to in the morning, and I go off and start my day. I get into the office early, and I connect with people who need my help. What the best part is, like, dude, I work with some of my best friends. Like, I literally work in an office with some of my best friends,
Yeah.
and we all have similar backgrounds, and kind of came out of a really destructive lifestyle. And now we get to drive around town and help people. What else I get to do is, working at Crossroads of Southern Nevada as a community liaison is, people call and they ask for help. And, I have a solution in an instant. I can pull the trigger if somebody wants to go to detox, like have you in a bed in an hour. Sometimes it can get a little overwhelming. Sometimes it gets sad.
Yeah.
Um,
It's not all fun and games.
no, it isn't, man. It's
Some
a
people
very
think
serious thing.
People tell me too. They're like, man, you must just feel amazing all the time. Not even close, man.
Yeah.
Like, don't get me wrong. I feel great. I'm very happy with where I'm at and what I do. Like, I love it, but it's heavy.
No, it is heavy, bro. It is heavy, and it's not easy. But I will say that it's always worth it.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it is. It is.
always.
You guys go down in the tunnels to do a lot of your stuff. Can we talk about tunnels a little bit?
Yeah, absolutely.
The tunnels in Vegas, where there are how many homeless people estimated?
So 12 to 1,500, maybe upwards of about 2,000 on a bad day.
All underground in the
Yeah,
city of Las Vegas. Insane.
yeah.
Now, had you ever been down there before you started working with Shine a Light?
No, I hadn't. I didn't even know about the tunnels. Like, so I lived here in Reno, and if I was ever stationary, it was along the Truckee River,
Yeah.
kind of over by the GSR. That was like our version of the tunnels, really kind of where people would just go and be left
Yeah.
alone. The tunnels, in Vegas are, For lack of a better term, it's out of sight, out of mind for the city, right?
Yeah.
Um,
I don't know if that's good or bad, dude.
I
I'm
don't
not.
either. I don't
Yeah.
either. They do exactly what they were built to do. Is they help our city from not flooding.
Mhm.
Um, Unfortunately, it's a space where people can go to make a home.
Yeah.
Um, it's 115, 120 degrees in Vegas in the summer.
Is it like an underworld down there, oh, so to speak? Is it totally different, like laws, rules?
I know there are different rules for different tunnels. There's a hierarchy. Um, I've I've seen different stuff in a lot of different tunnels that I've been in. Some, if you steal from each other, it's not good. You'll get run out, or worse.
That's almost like so. I mean, they have their own rules, but some of them are in kind of a good way. Some of them are a little bit better to be in.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. And I've seen a lot of people take care of each other. Um, t- to their own detriment, dude. Like people will stay underground because they think that if they leave, someone else isn't going to be able to survive without them. You know what I mean? And there's somewhat of an illusion in that, some truth as well.
Yeah.
But I ultimately it's kind of cool. I'm not going to lie. There are times when I'm out there and, I think about when I was homeless and there's, I don't want to romanticize it, but again, that freedom, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I don't have to worry about paying bills or going to work or having my family call me. Nobody needs me when I'm homeless, dude. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, at times there's a glimpse of like, I could do this,
Mhm.
obviously that's not where I want to go in life anymore. So I don't, but I get it. I get it, dude.
Is there anything down there that you saw that really shocked you?
Um, you know, Not really shocked in a bad way, but like the creativity of people building
Yeah.
camps, you know what I mean? Like people get super crafty, dude.
I love seeing that stuff.
I
I
do
know it
too.
sounds weird, but like I have a lot of respect
No, I do
for
too. And
yeah.
I get what you're saying. Like I'm not like, oh, good for you, but like, wow, that's ingenuitous,
Yeah.
Like how did you think of that? And like, wow, like good for you.
No, and you're over here like I just love seeing people build something from literal trash. Like what other people are throwing away, they're taking and turning into something else, and it's like a home. Like think that's awesome.
I think that on the flip side of that, what I try and get through to people is look at how creative you are, right? Look at how intelligent you are.
Yeah.
You were ingenuitous enough to put this together. Like imagine if you flip that energy into something else in your life and what you could create above ground. Hey, so I just wanted to say to anybody that might be in Las Vegas and you want to check out the Shine a Light Foundation and what we're doing at Crossroads of Southern Nevada, you can check out Shine on www.shinealightlv.com. Our outreach number 725-222-4654. We're on all the social medias. We have our annual fundraising gala coming up on April 13th. It's our Beneath the Neon gala. We're doing an afternoon affair. It's a brunch thing this year. It's going to be kind of cool. We'll raise some money, get together, and kind of talk about the success of our programming and what we have upcoming in the next year. But
And that would be for anybody who's just interested in maybe going through the program, people that want to help with what you guys do,
yeah, people
anything.
that want to get involved for sure.
Okay.
We're all inclusive, dude. We don't believe in stigmas or silos. We everybody's welcome, right?
Cool.
We're super informal. Most of the time, we just show up. You know
Yeah.
what I mean? Like you know how it is, dude.
Yeah.
Doors open, just show up and say you want to help out. You know what
I
I mean?
love
And
that.
and we'll
Yeah.
get you connected. But people always ask how they can help. Really, for you, your pitch is always hug and a handshake, right? Like
Yeah.
for us, just show up, man. And the door's open. Just come and talk to us, meet some people, and we'll plug you in, the best way possible.
That's awesome, dude. Awesome.
What's next for you?
Ooh, I got some ideas on the horizon of ways that I can help people that aren't just homeless, but people that are, say, like working poor or barely getting by. And that's all going to be on my YouTube channel in the next few months. And I'm hoping to get there sooner than later, but everything takes a little bit of time.
You're very unique. And we talked about that genuineness. Like you have that, bro. Like you're just a kind person. And I just want to thank you for what it is that you do. Thank you for using your platform to raise awareness for other people and organizations, and how we can just better help.
Thank you so much. That means a lot coming from you. I really do appreciate that. Leave some comments below. Let me know what you would like to hear in the next episode. Maybe if there's any other people that have been in my videos that you guys would like to see on the show. And thanks for tuning in to TJU on air, and I'll see you next time.
Later. That was
We gotta
awesome.
hit it with a hug or a handshake.
Okay.
Which one is it?
We'll do a hug.
All right, bro.